Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Ask Dave. This was a very interesting question. A viewer said, what is the difference between easy and difficult music? How do you define them? And this person was sort of equivocal about asking the question. They thought, oh, well, I'm sorry if this is a stupid question. It's not. It's not at all. In fact, I really like these questions that get to the fundaments of how we define our terms because, we have these conversations and we use language very casually. And it's not obvious sometimes, what we're talking about, even when we use terms that everybody, at least we think everybody knows and agrees with. Easy, difficult. Well, it's a very personal thing, right? Some music will strike you and just go straight into your soul, and some music you'll find completely off-putting. And it may or may not have anything to do with how harmonious it is or how, with the generally accepted principles for what constitutes easy music. That is, having a singable tune or having a certain low level of dissonance. That doesn't necessarily mean the music's going to be easy. You might find it aggravating. So I would like to go into this topic, and I want to thank the person who asked the question, because these are always good questions to ask. When you get to these very, very basic concepts, I like them. It forces me to think about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. It forces all of us to think about, the way we define music and how we think about our own personal taste. It's valuable. It's a useful discussion. So, what is easy music and difficult music? Well, I have a few fundamental concepts that I always sort of look to when I talk about whether something is easy or difficult. In general, let's talk about very, very basic idea. Music with words is easier than music without words. The reason is because the words tell you what the music is about. It's really very simple, isn't it? You may not like it. You may disagree with it. You may not hear what those words are saying, but there's no question what the music is trying to express because it has a text. The minute you take the words away, you have to think. And that's more difficult. That involves more of inserting yourself into the relationship between the piece of music and your own understanding of what it represents. So that's number one. Music without words is more abstract, let's just call it, and things that are abstract are more subjective and they're more difficult. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, and it's something that I take into consideration, is how big it is, how long, how much attention does it require, and how much of your time does it require. Music with text also. Text is wonderful. Something, it does wonderful things with music because it defines the scope of everything. You want to deal with one complete thought. One complete thought is usually a song because it's dealing with one topic, and that topic is usually summarized in a couple of sentences. And therefore, the song is, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Yes, there are big, long ones, but in general, songs are brief because thoughts are brief. And expressing those thoughts, once they've been expressed, there's nothing else to do. So it's over. That's one way of looking at it. Trying to expand the form and making things bigger. Something that's 10 minutes long or 20 minutes long and doesn't have a text, or is half an hour long and consists of several sections. And we've talked about this, that may or may not sound related. And how do they relate to each other? All of these things require more processing, maybe a little bit more experience of music, of what it can do and how it goes about it. So that makes the music more difficult. Just the size of it and the extent of it. That's something that we have to consider as well. So once we've taken that into account, we've got music without a text that can be indefinite in length. that's more difficult. Now, we then have to deal with the question of what style is the music written in. Some people are very, very comfortable with the Baroque style of music, for example, which is Baroque. It has motoric rhythms and little harpsichords tinkling behind it, and people love that. Some people don't like it at all. They find it very irritating. So for those people, the music will be more difficult because it bothers them. But in general, when we talk about style, we're talking about and how easy it is, how comfortable it is to listen to. We're talking about dissonance, the level of dissonance in the music. Everything from chromatic sludge, as we call it, which was initiated by Spohr and Wagner and Tristan and Isolde. We have chromatic sludge, and then we've got atonality, where there's just a very high level of dissonance all the time. And that can be very, very wearing. It can be monotonous. It's very difficult to understand what the music is doing because it seems to lack contrast. It all seems to be equally nasty all the time. And that is an issue. That makes the music more difficult, less approachable, something that needs to be taken into account. Of course, there's great music that's written in that style. There's music that's very highly contrasted. There's music with a very wide range of emotion. All of those things. But if you're not familiar with the style, if you don't know it well, if you're not accustomed to its language, to its syntax, then that process of getting accustomed to it, of learning to understand how it operates, that's difficult. And that makes the music more difficult. So we're starting to develop, as you can hear, I think, a list of criteria, at least that I use, to determine the difference between easy and difficult. Difficult music is, first of all, textless, operates in larger forms, has a higher level of dissonance or a style or syntax which is unfamiliar, or I think is unfamiliar to most people. All of those lead me to adjudge something as difficult. Easy, on the other hand, well, it has a tune. It's not too long. It's harmonically pleasant. All of those things also contribute. But there are exceptions to every rule. I'm talking in generalities, and I can't do more than that because you have to take each piece as it comes and try and figure it out. But those are the things that I think about when I talk about whether something is difficult or easy. And you will have your own criteria. All of us do when we listen to music. We listen to a wide range of music, and on this channel particularly, I hope we all do. And so we all have our own preferences. And those preferences are what we like and what we don't like. And what we don't like, we tend to think is difficult. And what we like, we tend to think is easy. That's another way to do it. I was trying to speak more of general principles, a little bit more objective than just what I like and what I don't like. The other issue, and the other way to look at it, and I think it's also a very interesting one, is simply great composers always write easy music because it's great. And if it's great, that means it speaks to you pretty much immediately, directly, consistently. Whereas lousy composers write difficult music because it's boring and monotonous and irritating and mind-numbingly repetitious or some other quality that is off-putting. I tend to think that is in some ways the most useful definition, because one of the reasons we call classical music classical is because it has this validity which has persisted for centuries or decades at least, at a minimum, and a vast number of people are able to listen to it and enjoy it. And so it has to be easy. It really does. Whereas, we talk about a lot of music on this channel which is relatively unknown, new, Or if it's old, it's newly recorded, it's people haven't experienced it, they haven't heard it. And so then the question becomes, is this great music or not? And if it isn't great music, it's not going to be terribly easy, is it? It's going to sort of be a chore. And that makes it difficult. That's a whole nother way of approaching the topic, but a perfectly valid one, I think, and one that comes up quite frequently as we talk about so much music that may be unfamiliar. So that is my answer to the question. What is difficult music and what is easy music, and what are the differences between them? Or how can we approach the question in a way which is useful? I'd be more than interested in hearing your own views on this, I think, fascinating topic. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.